Michael, how you doing, my friend? I missed you. That's sweet of you. Thank you. You're an asshole. All right, so in my continued never-ending quest to get through all of this physical media that I have on this shelf behind me that I have a real bad habit of neglecting, I've also decided to throw in all of the streaming services I had and watch some of those films too. In the month of January 2023, I got through 14 movies, and I watched them on a bunch of different platforms. So here, I'm here to tell you what movies I watched, on which platform I watched them, and tell you what I thought, tell you what was my least favorite, tell you what was my favorite. Most favorites, kind of redundant. So these are the horrors that I've seen. Most favorite. That sounds like some dumb shit you would say. Okay, so let's address the elephant in the room right off the bat. All right, so as my partner over here, my sidekick, so graciously pointed out, I got a bunch of shit going on my face. As much as I would like to say that I like fought Zorro off, or I was attacked by a angry pterodactyl, something along those, I was protecting my family from the forces of evil. That's all bullshit. Your boy was doing yard work, and I got myself into some poison ivy, and I got it all over me. It's tons of fun, tons of itching, and just a good time in general. All right, so kicking things off on New Year's Day, I finally watched my copy. Actually, you know what? On my streaming service, Vudu, I watched the digital code copy of the film Knives Out. Heard tons of great stuff about this movie. I was interested in it right off the bat. It seems like it was forever ago that I was watching the trailer for this in front of every movie that I would actually go and see. I absolutely loved it. I thought Knives Out was fantastic. I gave that film 4 stars. 5 stars, not quite 5 stars. I don't know. It definitely could have been better, but it could have been a hell of a lot worse. This is basically the story of a very wealthy man dies mysteriously, and all of his children, they hire like a private eye to figure out what's going on and peel away the layers of the onion, which is maybe where they got the Glass Onion title to the spin-off of this film. Peel away the layers to figure out who done it. It's a whodunit film. Great cast. Jamie Lee Curtis, the guy from James Bond, Captain America's in it. There's all kinds of great people in this movie. The chick from Hereditary, not good with names. If I sat down and really thought about it, I could probably come up with these names for you, but I didn't write them down, and I'm not going to edit the hell out of this video. So Knives Out, I gave it 4 stars. I thought it was fantastic. The next thing that I watched was actually the same day. I finally sat down and watched the Bill Skarsgård film from 2022 called Barbarian. I was very much looking forward to this movie. It took me a while to get to this. I think it came out in October, maybe September, October of 2022. And I finally sat down to watch this. I was sick. And that's why your boy was sitting down on spent New Year's Eve sick. I finally sat down on New Year's Day and watched this film, watched a couple movies that day. I enjoyed this movie. I thought it was really, really cool, but I definitely enjoyed the first half of the movie more than I enjoyed the second half of the movie. All right, so the basic premise of this movie is girl gets an Airbnb, goes up to the house, door's locked, can't get in the house, the key in the lockbox is gone, knocks on the door, somebody comes to the door, and that is where Bill Skarsgård's character enters the frame. He apparently already rented this house. There seems to be some confusion. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. Who knows? Not giving that away either. So now we have to figure out what's going on inside of this house. Why did this happen? And then there are a few strange events take place. Very well acted. Tons of great suspense in this movie. Very creepy atmosphere. Thought it was good, but I only gave it 3 stars. Like I said, the second half of the movie kind of lost me a little bit, but the first half of the movie was very, very cool. I like Bill Skarsgård. Humongous It Chapter 1, Chapter 2 fan. Bill Skarsgård is cool in my opinion, so I enjoyed the movie. I watched that streaming. I believe maybe it was on Shudder. If it wasn't on Shudder, maybe it was Paramount. I think it was Shudder. Not positive. All right, I'm very well prepared here, obviously. Next up, I finally watched Clerks 3 on Blu-ray. I'm a Jersey boy. I like Kevin Smith's stuff, not only because I'm a Jersey boy, but because the guy just makes good movies. I've liked all of his movies that he's done, with the exception of one or two. Jersey Girl, that can hit the bricks a little bit. In that Jay and Silent Bob reboot, I actually have not seen that. A lot of his stuff is pretty damn good, though. I like his sense of humor. And this is just a part 3 to the movie that broke him into kind of like pop culture now at this point. Clerks. The original Clerks film is one of the greatest things in the world. I absolutely positively love Clerks. Thought Clerks 2 was pretty damn good, but not as good as the original Clerks. Clerks 3, however, I actually enjoyed this movie more than the original Clerks. I got to tell you, this movie, it rounded the bases for me. It was out of the park. I thought it was fantastic. Baseball stuff going on there for you. I thought it was fantastic. Basically, every character from the original film and from the sequel returned in this movie, with the exception, the one glaring absence in this movie was the girl who played Caitlin Bree. She was not in this movie, but pretty much everybody else appears in this movie. And in this movie, it starts off with one character being sick, and then it ends up with another character being sick. And I'm not going to get into too much of that because I definitely don't want to spoil this movie for you. I thought Clerks 3 was fantastic. It literally will bring a tear to your eye. It's funny. It's emotional. It's just a whole lot of nostalgia going on, especially if you're a fan of Kevin Smith's earlier work. Absolutely, positively blown away in a very, very good way by Clerks 3. Absolutely loved that movie. 5 stars goes without saying. I thought it was spectacular. Next up, I actually went to the movie theater one night and I saw Megan. Megan was cool. I'm not a big possessed doll guy. I'm not a big Child's Play fan because the whole doll thing kind of... I'm like the white whale of the horror community as far as Child's Play goes. I thought Child's Play was all right. That's about it. The second one was a little bit less than all right, and I never bothered to watch the rest of them, with the exception of I watched The Curse of Chucky. I thought that was, again, all right. So I didn't know what to think about Megan, but I was in the mood to go to the movie theater, and that was the only thing playing at this particular theater in the horror genre. So I checked it out, and again, very, very pleasantly surprised here. I thought it was very good. It was way better than I expected. I don't even know what exactly I expected here, but this movie was, it far exceeded my expectations. This is an AI robot that has been created by this woman. I think it was her sister that got killed. Her sister got killed or her brother got killed, whatever. Her sister or brother and their better half or other half are killed in a car accident, and this girl winds up with the responsibility of raising their daughter. So she's not parent material, so she does what every parent that is not parent material does. She creates a robot to hang out with and play with this little girl, and the robot has some not so good intentions throughout the movie. It's really, really good. It's a Blumhouse flick, and I like a lot of their stuff, and this did not disappoint at all. I thought Megan was really cool. Gave Megan 4 stars. Next, I watched, this is one that I heard a lot of bad things about, but I got to tell you, I watched Welcome to Raccoon City in 4K, and I absolutely, positively loved Welcome to Raccoon City. Why did I like that? And I honestly liked it more than all of the Mila Jovovich films. What was there, 5 of them? Was there 5 of them? 4, 5, 6 of them? There's a bunch of them. I like those movies. I liked Welcome to Raccoon City way more than all of those movies. Why? Because this one was like the game. It had a lot of the video game elements to it. It felt natural. It didn't feel like, with the Mila Jovovich movies, I felt like, although good movies, I thought they were good. Some better than others, but that's pretty much true with every franchise that has ever existed, right? Some are better than others. Those movies they were not based on well, I guess they were loosely based on the video games, but they are based on the character Alice, who does not appear in the video games. And the elements that are in there, other than the obvious zombie apocalypse, the other elements that are in the original franchise of the Resident Evil films, all of the elements from the video games feel like they're like shoehorned in or force-fed to you because they're like, you know what, this movie's called Resident Evil. Why don't we put some Resident Evil shit in here? So they jam Ada Wong down your throat, and they shove this down your throat and shove that down your throat. And it didn't feel authentic to me. This, on the other hand, everything about this movie felt authentic to me. The Resident Evil settings, the Resident Evil characters. I watched a lot of the bonus footage, and they actually got like the measurements and blueprints and layout of the mansion, like the main hall of the mansion where the very first game begins. So they've made that to scale. You know, it felt like Resident Evil. It felt like you were in the video games. It was very, very, very cool. Clearly, in my opinion, I thought it was great. I have to assume that there's going to be more of them, and I'm very much looking forward to them. I thought that movie was absolutely fantastic. I gave that 4 stars. I gave Megan 4 stars too. Don't remember if I said that or not. Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. Telling you again, Megan 4 stars. Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City, also 4 stars. The next thing I watched was The Abandoned on DVD. I bought this when this After Dark Horror Fest stuff first came out. When they were releasing all these at one time, I would go out and buy all of them at one time. I either have, there's either 4 or 5 sets in this series. I think it's 4. This is not a first-time watch for me, but unfortunately, I remember liking this movie a lot more the first time I watched it than this time. This time, it was almost a chore to get through this movie. This one, it begins with a woman in an old beat-up truck. I believe they're in Russia, the Soviet Union, whatever. And she drives up to some old farmhouse, and inside of the truck, when the guy opens the door, the driver of the car, the woman, is dead, and there are twin babies in the car, like babies, like infant babies, like little guys and gals, guy and a girl, boy and a girl. So there's these babies in the car. Flash forward, the owner of the house dies and leaves this property to these 2 children. One of them is in Russia, and the other one is in the United States, if I remember correctly. I'm pretty sure. And they go back to this house. They have no knowledge of each other whatsoever. They actually find out that they're twin siblings once they arrive at this house. I had a hard time getting through this movie this time. I actually watched this in like 3 different sittings because I kept falling asleep. I kept falling asleep because I was bored to death watching this movie. I just didn't enjoy it. The one thing that I thought was cool, I only gave this movie 1.5 stars. And the reason that it even got a score, the lowest I think you can go with this, I'll tell you about that in a second. The lowest you can go in this ranking system that I have now in an app in my phone is 0.5 star, but I bumped it up to 1.5 stars because there's a couple scenes in this movie where the adult female and the adult male run into ghosts of themselves, and it's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. I thought that was actually more than pretty cool, and just that single element is why this thing got 1.5 stars for me and not 0.5 star, because I was bored to death. However, that part of this, or that element in this movie, I thought was pretty cool. Next up, I watched a film called Spring. I actually watched Spring on Shudder, the streaming service. I own a physical copy of this, but I was upstairs just being lazy one day and put it on the TV. Also not a first-time watch for me, but something sparked my interest. I saw something somewhere that reminded me of this movie, and I hadn't watched it in a while. So I pulled that up on Shudder. I knew it was there because I'm always perusing that app. This is a great movie. Very few people do I ever hear talking about, I've said that in an odd order. I hear very few people talking about this movie. This is an American male, he loses his mother. His mother dies from cancer, and he's been taking care of her. He, after the funeral, he goes to a bar at which he works and gets into a fight with one of the people in the bar. Beats him up pretty bad, and now he feels the need to run. So he hops on a plane, and flies to Italy, where he runs into the most beautiful girl that he's ever seen in his life. He almost immediately, it's love at first sight, maybe lust at first sight, but becomes love at first sight. He's head over heels about this girl, does whatever he can do to really like authentically get her attention, and things go a little bit sideways in this movie. If you don't know what this is, I would say my recommendation for this is for you to watch this the way that I watched this. I never watched a trailer for it. I didn't know anything about it. I kept seeing it on sale at Best Buy, finally bought the Blu-ray, brought it home, put it on, and watched it with no expectations. And I was quite shocked and pleasantly surprised at what takes place in this movie. It's fantastic. The guy who plays the lead role is the longer blonde-haired guy with glasses who summons the demons in the 2013 version of Evil Dead. And the girl is the woman who plays the character Magna on The Walking Dead. This is a very, very underrated movie. It's watch Spring, 5 stars all day. Fantastic. The next thing I finally watched was the 2000, how old is this movie? 2014? Is that real? No, that's wrong. 2019 movie, Saint Maude. This flick, I heard a lot of different people talking about this thing too, but I never even watched a trailer for this movie. Used to see it on sale in like Walmart, never bought it. I knew nothing of this. Finally, I sat down and I watched this streaming as well. This one I believe was streaming on Amazon Prime. This is a hospice nurse who is taking care of a cancer patient, and she becomes obsessed with saving this woman's soul. She knows she's going to die, but she becomes obsessed with her. And the hospice nurse is she don't have both of her oars in the water, if you know what I'm saying. And it's an A24 film. So that should tell you right off the bat what the atmosphere is like in this movie. Very much like Hereditary, very much like Midsommar. It just feels very weighty and very heavy, and subconsciously it's like messing with you. It's very psychological. I thought Saint Maude was pretty damn good. What did I give this thing? 4 stars? 4 stars. Very, very cool movie. If you can come across this streaming, you probably have Prime. Most people have Prime. Check it out. I thought Saint Maude was absolutely 100% worth a watch. Very, very cool. Next up, we had a Friday the 13th in January 2023. So what better opportunity to watch my Friday the 13th 4K that I just recently picked up at Best Buy. I don't need to get into the detail of this. Crazy mom kills a bunch of teenage camp counselors, and that's it. But it's one of my favorite horror movies of all time. So on Friday the 13th, I always traditionally try and watch at least one Friday the 13th movie. And I was kind of wondering which one I was going to watch this year. This time. I was going to watch the final chapter because it's been a while since I've seen that. And when I came down here to get that, I went, oh shit, that's right. You just bought a 4K of that. So I watched the 4K. I watched all the bonus features. The 4K looked pretty damn good in all the bonus features. I enjoy that stuff. If you're a film nut, I think you have no choice but to like that stuff. And I liked it. So Friday the 13th, 5 stars all day, every day, any day of the year. It is what it is. It's Friday the 13th. Next up, I watched my Blu-ray of Pan's Labyrinth. Never saw this movie. I've had this for quite a while. I like Del Toro's work. I've seen a few of his movies, and I have no problem with his stuff. And from what I understood, Pan's Labyrinth was more of the same and supposedly really, really good. So I sat down to watch Pan's Labyrinth, and through the first half of the movie, I was pretty damn bored, to be totally honest with you. This is a little girl whose mother is pregnant. Her father is he's a general in the Spanish army. The mother's trying to be protective and, do her maternal instinct stuff. The father is a dick. He's a general in the Spanish army, and he's exactly what you may think he is just by telling you that's what he is. And she goes into this fairy tale land where there's these couple different creatures down there. I don't know. I gave this movie 3 stars. I didn't dislike this movie, but I also don't know if I liked this movie so much as I liked the characters in the movie, the things in the fairy tale land. They just the effects work looked amazing, so I liked them, but I wasn't crazy about that. So 3 stars, whatever. Next up, I watched the most recent Jordan Peele film, Nope, in 4K. That's another movie. I've heard good things, I've heard bad things, very, very mixed reviews on that movie. Personally, I thought that was pretty fantastic. I thought it was just as good as Get Out and what was the other movie he did? Us. Thought it was just as good as they were. Maybe not quite as good as Get Out, maybe slightly better than Us. But if I watch that movie again, Get Out I loved immediately. Us, I liked it immediately. Then I watched it again and I loved it. This movie I thought was really, really good, and I have a feeling after I watch it again I may like it even more. So there ain't enough movies for Jordan Peele so far. Candyman, he was also a producer of that. Loved it. I thought that might have been the best movie that came out last year. This was good though. There's not, like I was saying, I don't know how much ranking I would do with his movies at this point, because I don't know. There's certain elements of all 4 of them that I do like. Really not anything much in there that I don't like. I mean, I guess playing that whole woke card thing, I'm kind of tired of that in today's society, but I don't give a shit about that. I just like good movies, and I thought Nope was really, really good. I gave Nope 4 stars. The last 3 things I watched were all streaming. I watched the 1983 Sean Penn film Bad Boys. This was the Bad Boys film before the Will Smith, Martin Lawrence Bad Boys, and in my opinion, this is definitely the better film. I like those other movies. They have nothing to do with this movie, so don't get that jumbled up if you haven't seen this. Don't go running out trying to see the prequel to Bad Boys, because this ain't it. This is, Sean Penn is a delinquent teenager. He gets his ass in some pretty seriously boiling hot water in this film, and he winds up having to go to the penitentiary. I can't even remember what that's called for kids. The hell's that called? Not juvenile, not juvie. Whatever. He gets sent to prison. Can't try him as an adult because he's not an adult. In this day and age, maybe that would or wouldn't happen. Who the hell knows? But it's regardless. This movie's really cool. Once he gets to jail, he comes across several other people that you probably would get a pretty good assumption of what they're like. They're in jail. So he comes across a bunch of them in there. He has very seriously troubled dealings with several of them. And then comes in somebody that he had a problem with before he went to jail. And while he was in jail, this other person did something pretty heinous, which is why he's now in jail. And trouble ensues. I'm sure you understand what I'm saying to you. So again, I don't want to give too much of this away. There's another movie. I've been watching this movie since I lived in my parents' house when I was a little boy. I remember seeing this movie at a very young age. I've seen it several times over the years, and I think this movie is very well worthy of the 5 stars that I would give it. I own a physical copy of this, but this movie, I came across it. I was just flipping around while I was in bed and found it on Amazon. I said, oh shit, I ain't watched that in a while, and watched it. So I didn't pull the DVD of that out, but I have it in my theater. Bad Boys. If you haven't seen this movie, watch it. Way better than the Bad Boy movies that I'm sure you do know. Next up, I watched 2 documentaries. If you do not know me at all, I'll tell you, if you do know me, you know that my first love is horror movies. Horror movies are my jam. I don't know why I say that. I hate that saying. It's real fucking stupid. Horror movies are my thing. But next to horror movies, what I enjoy watching more than anything else is a good documentary. So one morning, I woke up and I watched The Pez Outlaw on Netflix. As ridiculous as it sounds, this was incredibly interesting. And it is exactly what it sounds like, or exactly what the title says it is. There was a guy who used to get all of the proof of purchase things off of cereal boxes and send them into the companies. And he was going to recycling plants, and he was going to junkyards, and he was digging through dumpsters. He was getting tons of these things. And he is the reason why, if you look on cereal boxes now, it says 1 offer per household. The Pez Outlaw is the reason that is on these boxes now. Because he was getting hundreds of these things and selling them at like trade shows. like conventions of what we would know them now as to be, would know them now to be. And eventually he was running out of stock because they put that one per household thing on there, and somebody turned him on to Pez dispensers. He fell in love with them. Then he found out that there was a World Pez headquarters and there was Pez USA or Pez America. So he was flying overseas to, where the hell was it? I don't remember where it was. Whatever, watch it and find out. He was flying to another country to where the Pez World headquarters was and bringing back bootleg Pez dispensers. And he wound up getting pretty wealthy off of these Pez dispensers. It's just an incredibly compelling story. Again, you may or may not like something like that. I thought it was fantastic, and I gave it 5 stars. I thought it was just as good as anything that I've watched in quite some time. And the last thing that I watched was also on Netflix, and it was called, a lot of you physical media people out there will definitely relate to this, and I would be surprised if most of you have not already watched The Last Blockbuster. Whether you are aware of it or not, there's one Blockbuster left in the country, and it is in Bend, Oregon. I don't know why I thought I remembered hearing that that was not even there anymore. I thought I remembered that that was closed, or that it had recently closed. I may be way off. This movie was made in 2020, so in the last 2+ years, maybe that place closed. But when this movie was made in 2020, it was the last one. This was phenomenal. So nostalgic, so cool to see that store there. And I wouldn't exactly call it thriving, but it was kept alive. And I just think that that's something that it's part of Americana. It's what we did. When I was a teenager, I rented movies so much every weekend, 4, 5, 6, 8 movies almost every weekend from multiple different video stores. The little local ones, from Blockbuster, from West Coast Video, from like little mom and pop stuff. I loved it. And those video stores are very sincerely responsible in large part as to how I became a horror movie fan, because everybody who knows anything knows that those old video store boxes, the horror movies, had the coolest covers of anything in the joint, so except for that little room behind the curtain. Some of those boxes were pretty cool too, but the horror movies just drew me in, and I had already been a horror fan to a certain degree, to the degree of whatever you could see on your local television station. But these movies were, I remember that's where I saw Dawn of the Dead, and that's where I saw Day of the Dead and Fulci's Zombie. That's where I really got into the nooks and crannies of the horror universe. I loved it. And The Last Blockbuster, and in this movie, unfortunately, everything is DVD there, but so you don't have that feeling that the feeling that I had when I was a kid and that you had when you were a kid, but I'm pretty sure you understand what I'm saying. Very cool to know that that store still exists. If it still exists. I don't know why. Something's telling me that that place closed, but I'm not sure. Maybe I ought to Google it. I have this thing called the internet that you guys are watching right now, and I bet you that'll tell me. All right, so that's it. That's all 14 of the movie, and I gave that 5 stars too. That's all the 14 movies that I watched. My favorite movie, oh, you know what? My least favorite movie was definitely The Abandoned, because of the 14, that's the only one that I literally just didn't like. I had a terrible time sitting through that. The other 13 were great movies. I enjoyed all of them. And the lowest score was 3 stars. I liked everything else I watched, with the exception of maybe Pan's Labyrinth. I'm on the fence about that one. Honestly, the best movie, my favorite movie that I watched in the month of January 2023 was easily Clerks 3. I'm telling you, I was blown away by that movie. And as much as I enjoy Clerks, it's going to take a lot for Kevin Smith to make something that I like more than Clerks. Of all the films that he's done over all these last, what's it been, 25 years, 20 years that he's been making movies, of all the films he's made that I've liked, nothing has ever come close to how much I liked Clerks. This one, in my opinion, was better than Clerks was. I'm going to get out of here. Leave me some comments down below. Let me know of this 14 movie list that I just gave you. What have you watched? What was your favorite of those? What new has come out that you've seen that I need to see? Leave me some comments down below. Let's chit chat about it. I'm very, very interested as to what of this stack of movies you guys have seen and liked. Getting out of here. If you guys like this video, please give me a thumbs up. If you really like this video and you've been enjoying my content up to this point, please do me a huge personal favor. Click that subscribe button and ring that bell. Take care of yourself, folks. Take care of each other. Have a kick-ass day. And thank you for watching. Later, guys.